Greek gods were not helpful to mortals. They were beautifully entertaining, but for mortals they were harmfully dangerous. There were only two exceptions: Demeter, giver of corn, and Dionysus, giver of wine. They were mankind's friends, providing sustenance and life to humans. The Greeks held days-long festivals honoring them in harvest. They did not preside over bloody sacrifices, but in humble daily chores. But they were different from the joyous gods in another way. They sorrowed, bringing desolation to the earth.
Demeter had an only daughter, Persephone, the maid in the spring. One day when Persephone strayed too far from her companions, Hades, the underworld lord god, carried her away. He bore her away down to the underworld weeping, and her mother heard it, sped like a bird over sea and water, chasing after Persephone. But for 9 days she did not find anything until she came to the sun, and he told her the whole story. Demeter, who had a crushed heart, went down to earth disguised as a mortal and wandered for many days until she came to the city of Eleusis, where 4 sisters brought her home to their mother Metanira. Now Metanira had a young son, Demeter, who Demeter tried to make immortal by anointing him with ambrosia and every night placing him in the heart of the fire. Now one night his mother Metanira saw Demeter doing this and screamed. Demeter was very angry and showed herself to Metanira, who was very shocked. Demeter said that the only way for them to regain her favor was to build a temple in that town. When the temple was finished, Demeter sat in it wasting away, and the earth bared no fruit or flower and was very sad. This seeing this sent Hermes, the messenger god, down to Hades to command him to bring Persephone back to Demeter. Now Hades knew that he would have to obey his brother, and so he made Persephone eat pomegranate seeds so that she would have to return to him. Persephone went back to her mother, and Demeter was very happy, and the earth brought forth flowers and grew, and everything lovely, and it was all nice again. For 6 months out of the year, Demeter would have Persephone, and it would all be good. And the other 6 months of the year, when Hades had Persephone, the earth would be barren.
Dionysus, or Bacchus in Roman, was one of the 2 earth gods. He was the god of wine. He was the only god to have a mortal mother, Semele, and a divine father, Zeus. He was born in Thebes, which later became his patron city. Dionysus was a fickle god whose moods reflected the double nature of wine. Sometimes he was jubilant and joyous, and at other times he was vicious and bloodthirsty. He is not mentioned in many ancient writings. The ones he is featured in are more recent by ancient Greek standards. Because of this, it is unknown if he has any symbols other than grapevines, wine, or his patron city, Thebes.
Prometheus was the giver of fire to men. He was atop a mountain when a strange heifer-like creature ran over the cliffs. Her name was Io. She told Prometheus of how she was changed into such a beast. Io was changed at first as a disguise to Hera by Zeus. Zeus was in love with Io, though he was fearful of Hera's jealousy. Zeus commanded Io to travel to the Nile River, where he would change her back to her lovely maiden form. Io later bore him a son named Epaphus. They lived happily ever after. Io's descendants Europa was the daughter of the king of Sidon. Zeus watched the earth one day and saw her. She was awakened by a troubling dream. Cupid shot Zeus with an arrow to make him fall in love with Europa. Zeus was afraid of Hera's jealousy, so he changed into a bull before appearing to Europa. Upon appearing before Europa, Zeus amused and enticed her and all of her friends. She was quick to get on the bull's gracious back, and they were off. They traveled over the waters to the island of Crete. Zeus and Europa were married. They had 2 sons named Minos and Rhadamanthus. Odysseus was on his way home after the destruction of Troy. Odysseus' crew docked the ship not far from the cave of Polyphemus. Along with 12 of his men, Odysseus explored the cave. There was a mighty surplus of food, and the men had their fill, until the mighty Cyclops entered. Polyphemus had brutal ways of killing, then eating some of Odysseus' crew. Odysseus was quick of wit. He and his remaining crew members fashioned a stick with a sharp point. They frightened the giant and stabbed him in his eye. Then they disguised themselves with sheep wool and made way for their was a charming, mocking sea nymph. Polyphemus couldn't help to be in love with her. His conscience scolded him for loving such a girl who didn't return such a feeling. Strangely, he did not kill. Polyphemus only sang mournful love songs to soften the sea nymph's heart. Later on, Galadia's heart is weak for the Cyclops, only because he is the almighty Poseidon's son. Galadia bragged to her sister Doris about Polyphemus. But alas, Polyphemus and Galadia weren't meant to be. She fell in love with a young prince named Assus. Polyphemus later killed Assus viciously and furiously. The Narcissus flower came from Narcissus, a young lad who everyone loved, but he loved no one but himself. All the women did everything they could to catch his attention. One woman who had loved him prayed, "May he who loves not others love himself." The goddess Nemesis heard this prayer, so one day when Narcissus looked into a pond, he fell in love with his reflection, and stayed there staring at himself as long as he lived. When he died, the place where his body was bloomed the flower Narcissus, the same flower that drew Persephone away from her companions so Hades could grab her. The hyacinth flower came from the blood of Hyacinthus, who was struck in the head with a discus while in a contest with Apollo to see who could throw the discus the farthest. When he died, the hyacinth flower bloomed. The flower anemone came from the death of Adonis. Now Aphrodite and Persephone both loved. So Zeus decided that Adonis should spend autumn and winter with Persephone and summer and spring with Aphrodite. One day while with Aphrodite, Adonis wandered away to hunt. He speared a wild boar, but did not kill the wild boar. The angry boar charged at him and gave him a fatal wound. Aphrodite found him dying and wept over his body.
Where the blood was spilled, the flower bloomed.
I'm recording.
Dionysus.
Toga, 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 toga.
No, elaborate. Like, oh my god. Build me a temple.
Build me a temple, you mere mortal, you.
Oh.
Build me a temple like a man or something. You must build it into stone, not wood.
You're flooding into the water bottle. my friend. We'll keep on burning till the end.